What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the MG YouTube channel. I'm Malcolm Grubb, CEO of Elite Automation, an investor in Tesla, and a Tesla enthusiast. Also an FSD user. And we're about to put the truck in FSD right now. And also I'm going to be doing some reviews on CNBC and Robotaxi. So I want to give kind of my perspective on CNBC and their take on Robotaxi, and I'll give you some of my take. And I'm going to come at it as a little bit of a bear because I am very bullish on Tesla, but I want you also have that counterbalance of other individuals kind of talking against Tesla. Again, I am very much a Tesla bull, but I just want to come at it with a little bit of that bear kind of sentiment.
Tesla's a big story today, Bryn. Let's address this. The limited launch of Robotaxis in Austin on Sunday. UBS raised their price target to $215. Okay, the stock's at $354. They reiterate their sell rating.
All right, so that's the first thing I want to mention right there. They're saying they're raising their price to $215. One, this is a bearish company that's putting a price target on Tesla. They're not using a company that's bullish on Tesla for the price target. So obviously, like, the price target is not going to be very high, and it's going to be under where the current price is at. With that being said, Tesla, just as an automotive company, should be priced around $180, somewhere around there. That's without any of the FSD things. That's without any of the Optimus things. That's really not including things like their battery packs, the battery storage and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of things that are really being left out from that price target, and they're just now including this price target of $215. Again, that's not very bullish. It's that's kind of bullish and not bearish. But that part, I just want to speak on that because they're really undermining Tesla with that information, or with that price target.
So they remain negative, even if they bump their price target well below where it currently is. Dan Ives was overjoyed by the experience. I mean, how else do you describe it? He says the golden age begins. I'll leave that wherever. The point, though, is that Elon Musk has bet the farm on this. He's bet the farm on autonomous. Are you optimistic as a shareholder that they're going to deliver?
I think when I look out 5 years, robots, autonomy, licensing FSD, just not FSD, solar, the collective of the company, I think is very positive. When I looked back over the weekend at my returns and my trades, I've actually made more money selling calls on Tesla than on the stock itself. And so I think that's where investors...
So her talking about selling calls versus like the actual Tesla stock, I actually do this myself. I primarily sell calls versus the stock. But the reason why is because calls are multiples of what the stock price is. So there's something you just really have to keep in mind is that when you're trading calls, you're going to get a higher multiple than if you trade the stock. That's just with any stock. It's not just a Tesla thing. And you're always going to make more money or lose more money on those calls than you would just trading the stock. So that's something that's important to know about calls and stuff like that. And so, like, say for instance, for me, I trade them on what I call, some people call them leaps. I just like to call them longs. So I call them long calls. By the way, I don't have a destination in my FSD right now. It's kind of just driving itself. But I'm going to say to strange. But I'm going to go ahead and play this video back now.
Our investors need to understand right now is that I think that 380 to 400 is a cap. We saw last week when he quit the White House or what have you, it got down to 280. And so I think that the challenge to me to get above 380 to 400 is that actually the current business, which is cars, those underlying fundamentals are eroding. And so I think there's a lot of premium in the stock, and I do think I would never underestimate Elon and his team, but I still feel like selling calls against the majority of my position is...
She said that the underlying fundamentals of of Tesla, aka its vehicle manufacturing, is eroding away. In what sense is it eroding away? It's not eroding away. It's, sure, sales may have been down, and this is going to be one potentially short-term thing just due to all the political stuff that's happened with Elon, and so sales are down just a little bit, right? And so they're supposed to be a growth company, so there's that aspect of it that, sure, maybe they should be growing at much higher multiples than what we're seeing according to like the last sales numbers. But again, even there's two different things: fundamentals of a business and what the company fundamentally was is two different things. The fundamentals of a company is more of like their fundamental financials, right? Where are they getting the main source of their revenue from? Where are they getting their main sources of their that's really it. Where are they getting their revenue from? Like, what are their expenses? Like, the business model is some part of it as well. But fundamentals are the financials more than like what the company fundamentally was. And yes, the company is fundamentally changing from being an automotive manufacturing company, an EV manufacturer, to now being an autonomous vehicle company, becoming a Robotaxi company, becoming a Optimus robot, humanoid robot company. And so fundamentally, yes, the company is shifting from what it was, but its fundamentals eroding away. What fundamentals? The only thing you could maybe argue is that the cost or the sales on vehicles are down, and we had 1 quarter of down sales numbers or whatever. Let's see where it's at in the next year or two, especially with having vehicles that get more known for this Robotaxi thing and more known for their FSD. People don't even know FSD is real yet. They don't even know it's real yet. I own Teslas. People sit in the Teslas. People experience the Teslas, and I tell them I drive it from, the Midwest to down to Florida, or to Upper Michigan, or over to Cleveland, or over to Chicago, and I drive all these places like 99.9% FSD. They don't even know it. They don't even know it's a thing. They don't even know if it's truth. They don't even know it's a fact, And so once those things start to, once those things start becoming more publicly known, they're going to buy Teslas because they now know, right? Like, I will only buy a Tesla now. Most owners of Teslas will only buy Teslas, especially those who have experienced FSD. Now, again, if you haven't experienced FSD, then you probably don't know, even if you own a Tesla. Because really, in my opinion, FSD is the number one reason to buy a Tesla. If you took FSD away from Tesla, I really wouldn't care to buy a Tesla. Just to keep it real, but FSD is that good and that valuable that I just wouldn't buy anything else. And other people will think that same way. Anybody who values their time any amount at all. Eventually I'm going to be able to sleep and go on, and go to sleep in the car and take a vacation, and I'll arrive at my destination when I wake up, an 8-hour trip away, I'm going to jump back into the video. Enough ranting.
Is going to be a way where I can have a better total return than just being long only at this point.
It's a really interesting perspective to say that the underlying fundamentals are deteriorating. I mean, that's the bread and butter of how one would typically assess a stock. Phil LeBeau joins us now. Of course, he covers the company. So you have, as Bryn suggests, Phil, fundamentals that don't look good, okay, against
Correct.
this moonshot, if you will, that rolled out in a limited fashion, and investors like Bryn are trying to figure out, if you put all of it into the pie, what it's going to taste like at the end of the day. Is it going to be good enough to be what investors are betting on?
And nobody knows, Scott. That's the black box of this entire thing. Was it a successful weekend in terms of there was no major disengagement? There was no video that got posted of an autonomous Robotaxi doing the wrong thing on the road? No, there was not. All of the videos from the influencers show what appears to be a normal ride. But keep in mind, this was extremely limited. When you look at the launch yesterday, you had 10 to 20 Model Ys with the full self-driving technology, autonomous vehicle technology. There was a safety monitor in the front seat, not in the driver's seat, but in the passenger front seat. There was also a remote backup driver monitoring every single ride if they had to engage or...
Okay, so a couple things here. One, yes, there may have been only 10 to 20 Model Ys, and actually they don't know that number specifically. They're just going off of some like semi-known data from like what Elon kind of mentioned. However, like one thing that I do know that's somewhat factual is there was over 1,000 something rides given yesterday, and I don't know of any interventions. I don't know of any issues whatsoever. So they just worked flawlessly for like at least 1,000 rides. So I mean that's 100% success rate. I don't know what else people want more than 100% success rate. The next thing I'd like to mention here is the remote backup drivers. There was not, and we do not know how many backup drivers there were per vehicle. You know, and anyway, it doesn't seem like any backup drivers actually intervened with any aspect of Robotaxi. It looks like they were, you know, if there were backup drivers there, which there should be for the safety of humans, right? As we test this and roll this out, as many backup drivers as they want to give us per vehicle, great, because that's just going to ensure the safety of humans. So which one are we talking about? Safety of humans? Or are we talking about, you know, did this thing roll out successfully or not? Again, so since I think everything rolled out, you know, successfully without having any human intervention or very, very minimal human intervention, I think that, you know, overall it was very, very successful. But yeah, for them to call out something like that and just, you know, basically say something that's kind of untruthful. They don't even know how many vehicles were actually there.
Or they
or sorry, I mean backup drivers, that is.
Or they didn't engage. We don't know. Nobody's told us that. And the flat fee for those who took the service, $4.20. Guggenheim out with a note today saying, by the end of this year, we believe the pace of expansion needs to be closer to a sprint to justify lofty robotaxi expectations that are embedded in the Tesla valuation. As you take a look at shares of Tesla, that's the bottom line here, which is what Bryn was talking about, which is you believe in Elon Musk, you believe in autonomous, you believe in Optimus, then you believe that 5 years down the road, they are going to be perfectly positioned. But between now and then, Scott, certainly between now and maybe the next couple of months, you have no idea. I mean, yeah, they will probably come out and say, we did X number of rides and everything was fine. But we don't know. We don't know what this is going to look like a year from now. Will it be as widespread as Elon Musk has said it will be, or will it be much more subdued? And if it's much more subdued, then the question becomes, if you're a Tesla investor.
So he does have a point there, right? That you know, most of us, nobody really knows like how successful it's going to be in like the near term. You know, they've mentioned some numbers about, you know, potentially being able to roll out to thousands over the next few months, or by the end of the year, I should say. But again, we don't really know 101% exactly how many they're going to have rolled out. And that's the biggest if, right? That's the biggest argument you have against like the stock price, right? Like maybe there were some interventions yesterday that we did not know about. Let's just say, right? Until like it's really being rolled out and being utilized by mainstream public, at least in Austin, and we start to see some success in that, like it's running for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and we see no major interventions or accidents or news reported. Again, there's going to be bad negative news no matter what. Even if somebody presses one button, oh my gosh, somebody intervened with a Tesla, blah 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 things, right? They're going to get heat no matter what. But we need to see some success, right? Not just like a pony show, right? That's what a lot of people, like say for instance in our industry, call that. We'll say it's a pony show, right? Where people come in, you got to make it look good for today. It may not work good before they show up, may not work good tomorrow, but today's going to work good, right? And so you do whatever it takes to make it look good today. And in my line of work, we do project-based work, and it's a lot of, you know, this type of stuff. You know, FSD is a massive project, And so some aspect of it is we got to make our shareholders happy. We got to keep the public confident about us moving forward and making progress and all that. And I do think they're extremely close. So I don't think they're doing any huge major like interventions or anything like that. I think they are why does it keep trying to turn this drive? Oh, I still have the freaking thing in there. Gosh dang. By the way, all my disengagements are because I have like kind of short destinations in there, and like that time I forgot to cancel my destination and I just passed it until it went around the block and tried to go back to the same place. But now I don't have any destination. I'm just gonna let it drive where it wants to drive again. But yeah, as a bear, we don't know a lot of these things, and so that is where I personally, as an investor, have some skepticism. You know, I don't know if, you know, maybe they keep this slow trickle going, and as a bear, right, as a worst case scenario, like maybe they just get it to the public by December, right? And so up until December, it doesn't go to the public. And so with that being said, like, that's really kind of stretching things, because now we need to get into other cities still. And what is that going to be? Is that going to be 2026, by end of 2026 when we start launching full scale into another city? So you have just the geo-fenced area that we have right now that we're operating in for Robotaxi, and then that has to become public. And then after that becomes public, then we have to expand that area in Austin. So really probably prior to moving on to other cities. Now we can be working on other cities in the background, you know what I mean, just kind of getting them prepared. So after we say, hey, we're satisfied with how much of Austin we've got taken care of, and like the greater Austin area, my bearish projection is, though, that they're gonna kind of milk this thing and roll this thing out pretty slow. Maybe they made it an exclusivity. We'll probably find out in the next week how fast things are gonna go or not. Because if they don't do much more than just this launch they did with having all these influencers come and check it out and shoot video and stuff, if it doesn't release to the public within like this next week or so, that tells me they're really not ready, and they're really kind of just trying to buy more time, get people re-excited about it. And it's not really ready for public, because if it was, then they would just have people in the public using it. Are they going to let these early access users, maybe they'll let the early access users keep utilizing it for like the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before they release it to the public, because maybe they do want to get a good conversion of individuals wanting to use Robotaxi. And so they're trying to get more publicity around it before they launch it to the public, because maybe they just want to have a better success whenever it comes like numbers, and like they want the Robotaxi launch to be pretty successful, so that way it just like looks good for investors, and again, just gives us confidence that this is going to be a revenue generating thing. That's one of the biggest bear things that these people have that has merit, is that like we just don't know where the revenue we don't know when the revenue generation is going to start, right? Or proof of that revenue generation even. I'm gonna go ahead and let the video play a little bit longer, and then I'll rant on some more after that.
The Tesla investor,
Do you still believe that by 2030 it will be as large as many project it will be?
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I mean, there's always been a little bit of built-in we don't know, Joe, as it relates. Let's fill the bow with that reporting for us. Always a little bit of we don't know.
Yes.
When it comes to this company, you know, we don't know what the sales are going to ultimately be. Do they match the projections that are put out? Will this end up matching some of the hype and the hyperbole that's been around all of that? Of course, we're doing the 420 thing again too, which I'm sure everybody's taking note of as well.
Yeah, I'm sure Waymo's taking note of that as well, because they're charging a much higher price. So this is a very deflationary effect when you're telling me this is $4.20. I'm not sure. I think Waymo.
By the way, like the whole 420 thing is like literally just a joke. I would assume the only reason Tesla even charged for these drives at all is to test the payment processing thing. And so the 420 obviously is just like a, what do you call it? I don't know the word for it. It's a funny, right? He's making a meme out of it, basically, of the 420 pricing. again, that was probably the only reason why they used that pricing. They needed some number to charge people just to make sure that their payment processing thing, they could test the back end and make sure payment processing's working. They don't have any issues there. That's probably it. I guarantee you it's not going to be one set price. I know for almost a fact it's not going to be one set price. I do think they might come out the gate immediately charging a ridiculously low price. I think that's highly plausible. I don't want to see them do that, to be honest, because two reasons. One, I want to see them generate revenue off of this, and then secondly, I want them to. I want to be able to put my Teslas on the Robotaxi network and make money. And the less they're going to charge for rides, like the less like the owners of vehicles are going to be able to get, right? And so, yeah, selfishly, as a Tesla owner, a Robotaxi owner, I want to be able to charge a decent. I want to charge a reasonable price, right? I want to be very competitive. I'm okay with being completely competitive and kind of disrupting. Let's cut like the price in half from what you see in like Uber and Waymo and stuff like that. But again, how they were mentioning, this could be like Waymo charge of $15 to $20 for some of these rides, and for Tesla to only charge $5. I think Tesla long term, they need to be probably in that $10 range. I think $10 is good. You're undercutting them by $5 to $10 per ride. I mean, that's 25 to 50% per ride. And again, that's sufficient in my opinion. They shouldn't have to cut much more anymore, really, again, because it's so competitive. Now, I mean, on the flip side of that, like, it's going to get people to, like, if they go in, even really at that price, that people are going to dump Uber and Waymo and Lyft and all of them over just that. People dump one over the other over $1 or $2 per ride, right? I personally do it myself when I go out of town and I'm traveling for business and stuff. Like, I'm a cheap dude. Like, I just always go with I go with the cheapest option as long as it doesn't impact my time, right? My time is my most valuable thing, but outside of that,